Hi guys, so I'm going to give you an activity today which is to do with the 6 R's, which are about being more environmentally friendly, but I'm going to give you a bit of a graphics task to go with that as well. So the first thing to do is to understand what the 6 R's are, and the second thing to do is to look at the specifics of the activity. So I'm going to go through a little PowerPoint slide just to remind you of what those 6 R's are. I'm giving you some very, very basic information. Hopefully you're going to go off and you're going to investigate further to get more information about each of them. The 6 R's are a method of remembering how we can reduce our impact on the environment by making choices when we're designing products to use our resources more effectively. So we have finite resources which are potentially going to run out, and we have infinite resources which infinite would go on forever, but we don't refer to them as infinite resources or infinite resources. We refer to them as renewable or sustainable sources. So that's things like wood, which can be regrown by careful management of forests, or it's using materials in a repurposing way. For example, aluminium from aluminium's drinks cans can be recycled, and therefore it is sustainable. So the 6 R's are a method of remembering how to do it. They're prompts. So reduce is how can we reduce either the amount of materials being used in a product or the amount of material required to make a product by using less products. So we can reduce the overall requirement of those materials. It could be like making the wall thickness of a bottle a tenth of a mil thinner, or it could be by making a frame which has got less material used by having holes in it, whilst maintaining the strength of it. So reducing the amount of material, or reducing the number of products that we use. Rethinking is, can we redesign our products to make them work better, or can we redesign our systems so that they use less materials, or they use alternative materials which are sustainable, instead of using materials which cause an environmental impact. So can they be less damaging to the environment? Refuse is an interesting one, probably most seen by customers buying into the idea of not using too much plastic and not using plastic in every product, and not using plastic bags every time we go to the supermarket. That led to a huge change because the customer base refused to keep going with plastic bags in the way that they were. So a charge was organised, 5p per bag, and most people now have bags for life. So the overall amount of plastic carrier bags being produced and used and disposed of is massively reduced. That's an example of refuse. Okay, do we need to buy stuff in all this plastic packaging? Great example there. Recycling is when you take the materials, you chop them up, you reprocess them, and you use those materials again. You create a new source material from those recycled materials. It's different to reusing. Okay. Reusing, I'll give you an example of that in a minute, is where we use a product and we use it more than one time. Now, quite often that might be something like a water bottle which we refill, as opposed to going off and buying a new water bottle. But it could be that you have a plastic tub where you refill it at a wholesaler's and you fill it up. So rather than using carrier bags, plastic packaging, tins and stuff, you actually just reuse the same component, the same packaging material multiple times. Okay, and then the final one is repair, which is increasingly important, and customers and manufacturers alike are taking the idea that instead of throwing away a product, we actually repair it, we extend its lifespan. Okay, we make it usable for a longer period of time, and that is the importance of repair. So you have one component, if it breaks, it's designed so that it can be swapped out and the product can be repaired. Great examples of that are things like bikes or cars. You wouldn't dream of throwing away your bike because you got a puncture or the chain snapped, or you would replace that part and keep the product going. Now, every product should be suitable for repair if only we know how to do it and we have the equipment and the parts. So those are our 6 R's. There are lots of overlap with them. You can think about them in different ways. You can go off and do your own research today and present your ideas on a leaflet that's going to go into our leaflet holder. Okay, but these are always a little checklist about being environmentally friendly. The next activity that we're going to do is we're going to actually start to do the leaflet holder. Sorry, that's my examples of products being reused. Okay, so tin cans are a classic example of that. Coke did a little bit of promotion by designing different nozzles and lids to go on their bottles, and then, you know, growing stuff within plastic bottles. So using that, you see people building houses and greenhouses out of plastic bottles. That's reusing, really interesting. Here's the PowerPoint that I've given you guys, and if I haven't given this to you, then you can find a similar thing using the internet. It would be either called a point of sale leaflet holder, or it would be called a leaflet holder or a pamphlet holder or something like that. And you would be able to find that net on the internet if you don't have access to this particular one. As usual, if you don't have a printer, you could put this up as a full screen and you could trace it off, or the key images, taking care of your computer screen whilst you do that. When you look at a net, they're designed where the solid lines are an outline and the dashed lines are a fold line. Now, this particular example I've given you, I designed to fit onto an A4 page quite neatly, and to be relatively simple to put together. The downside of that is that actually it isn't the best design, because it's quite straightforward to put together and it doesn't have any slots or tabs, because I just thought that would be a bit complicated for people. If you want to add that to your own design, there's nothing to say that you have to stick exactly to this design if you've got a better one that folds up more effectively and slots together or has tabs, etc. On the right hand side of this page, you can see literally this is a little leaflet that works really well. If you think about the 6 sides of that, if it was double-sided, that gives you each of your 6 R's, where you can give a little bit of information, and that then tucks into your leaflet holder. One of the limitations of the leaflet holder that I'm giving you there is that it's a little bit tippy, it can fall over. So I have added in these 2 optional support tabs that you could stick on the back. So your end result will be this product here. Okay, I'll show you a better view of that in a minute, hopefully. So that's the leaflet holder, that's the leaflets that goes into it, and obviously I haven't done any graphic design on that. That's your job to do. I've made that out of paper, and of course that would work equally well using Amazon packaging, or thin cereal box card would be really good. So I'm going to demonstrate now to you how you actually go about doing the manufacture of this this product. It's quite straightforward, and you then need to go off and do your own research and investigate the 6 R's. You need to decorate your package before you put it together, and you then need to fold it up, put your leaflet into it, photograph it, and submit that as your piece of work. Take a little bit of care over your presentation with this, make sure it looks good. But I will now, I'll show you the method of doing this, and hopefully I'll speed it up in my video so it doesn't take too long. Okay, first job is obviously going to be to cut it out. Second job is going to be to assemble it. So it actually doesn't take very long at all. Okay, so you can see that I've cut it out. The next stage that I'm going to do is to actually fold it up. And one of the things that I think you should think about when you're folding these up, I always use a ruler, and I'd fold all of my fold lines before I do any assembling, and just do a quick, what I call a dry fit, to check that it all fits together. And if you're doing it particularly with a piece of paper, what I would tend to do, put your ruler where the fold line is going to be, and then just tug the bit of paper up before running your thumbnail over it, and that gives you a lovely sharp crease. Okay, so again, just with that one, just going to pull it up first of all, then run my thumbnail on it. Okay, do the same on the others until I've done all of those. Okay, so at that point all of those have been folded. I'm now going to just check that they sit together nicely. Okay, and that's going to give me my net. So what I'm going to do, I've got a choice. I can either have these tabs at the front sitting in front, or I can tuck them in behind. It's entirely up to you which way those work. The only thing to think about is if you've applied your graphics to it, which if you remember that's the expectation, the graphics kind of get put on the faces that are seen. So if those are going to wrap in the front, you know, let's imagine you've done a rainforest leaf or something, you don't want to then hide it in behind. So think about that as part of your designing. And then once you know what you're doing, I'm going to use Pritt Stick. You could use a little bit of PVA glue. You could use some sellotape if you haven't got any glue. I'm going to just tuck that together. I'm doing this quite quickly. Take a little bit of time to make sure things line up properly. Okay, so I've done that part there now. And then I'm going to just fold the front up with those two leaves on the front of it. So I'll put a little bit of glue on those. Now again, if you're working with Amazon card or cereal packaging, you might have to put a little bit more glue on. Maybe think about how you hold it together with some masking tape or some sellotape. Paper folds really easily, but obviously it isn't very strong. So when you do this, you probably need to think about how much it's going to spring back and how much you need to reinforce it or support it. So there's my leaflet holder produced. It's all done there. Obviously I haven't put any design work on it. And then the last bit, if you wanted to put those tabs on the back, you would bend them up and stick them on the back. I'm not going to bother with that because mine is standing up okay. And then when you do your leaflet holder, your leaflets go in it. It's literally just cutting out that second bit, adding your information about the 6 R's onto there, and that then tucks into your leaflet holder. Take a photograph of it and submit. Okay, so on the next slide is the information, just a quick reminder of the task. Okay, a few little bits. So if you've got this PowerPoint from me, you've got that there. Okay, so good luck with that.